Welcome to another edition of the Dementia Care Partner Talk Show. Now, here's dementia care expert Teepa Snow and your host, Greg Phelps.
Hello and welcome to the Dementia Care Partners podcast series. I'm your host, Greg Phelps, and joining me as usual is Teepa Snow. And Teepa, during our last podcast, we started talking about engagement and the importance of activities. And then we ran out of time, as we usually do, because we just sort of get off on the wrong tangent or, little field
Yeah,
trips every once in a while.
I think
Um,
it's you talk too much, Greg. I don't think it's me. Do you
that's
think?
probably it, yeah.
Well, I think
Uh,
it's
I'll take full responsibility. How about some tips and ideas? Can we start by defining the two, engagement and activities? Are they mutually exclusive, or are they the same? Or
activity is the thing you do. Engagement is the process of engaging or becoming active in something. So you get active, you engage in something, and the something you engage in is called an activity.
okay, so if I am sitting in a wheelchair and you wheel me over to a table and dump a puzzle in front of me and say, "Here's your puzzle," what has that been engagement, or has that been activities, or was that just a total fail?
Well, if all you've done is put the person and the activity or the task in front of them and they aren't participating in, I would call it sort of a failure to connect and to get the person engaged. So if you're going to do something like that, number one, I first of all hope that you know that the person enjoys puzzles or classically, historically has liked doing that kind of thing, because why would you put them there? Because what's the interest level? Unless I say, "Hey, Greg, could do me a big favor? Will you help me turn all these pieces over?" Well, then it's not
Okay.
doing the puzzle, is it? It's simply helping me. That's the engagement. That's actually the activity. The activity is helping me. Not, I mean, it turns out the task is turning the puzzle pieces over, but in fact, it was that you chose to engage with.
It's a start, right?
Yeah. How do you get things started and how do they have value for the person in some form or fashion? So if I hand you a bowl of ice cream, um, if you start eating it right away, apparently you like the ice cream and you eat it up. So hand to mouth is something you do. But, you know, if I say, "Hey, Greg, would you rather have ice cream or would you rather go outside for a bit?"
Well, boy, that'd be a difficult decision for me because I
Hmm.
like both.
Yeah. Which would you like to do first?
Okay, there you go. So now you're actually interested in what I want.
Yeah, because if I don't find out what you want or might be most interested in the moment, then it's all about what do I try to get you to do versus what does your brain tell you would be interesting. Or and so giving an either or option allows you to have a sense of control and choice. And it turns out humans tend to like that. And it's good for their brains because it engages different parts of their brains.
Now, I've heard you use the term before, task oriented. Is that sort of what this is, or could
Yeah,
be?
so it's really the difference between seeing my job as to get you to do something versus seeing my role as getting with you, and together we figure out, okay, so what is it you'd like to engage with in this moment? Me, the puzzle pieces, the putting together of the puzzle pieces, the moving over to the table, the oh, you'd rather actually put everything back in the box. Huh. Well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought you were going to do that. What might that tell me about what's going on right now, though? I put everything out on the table and you put it back away.
I might think we're finished.
I might think, yeah, I might go, okay, maybe not that. Or that was a cue. You put it out on my table. That's not supposed to be on the table. So maybe I could go get a drink and bring it over and say, "Hey, Craig, how about this?" And see what you do with that.
So somewhere along the line, you've also coined the phrase "know your person, know your person, know your person."
Yeah. Yeah. Because if I don't know who you are and I'm not curious about who you are, I'm not sure how I'm going to actively get beyond me trying to occupy you or get you active. But how do you keep participating? How do we sustain that? How do you move that forward? How do you find value in it if all I'm doing is, "Here, Greg, do this. Here, Greg, do this"?
Yeah, it wouldn't work out very well in the long term. Short term
Well,
might be okay, but I might start disliking you at a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, a honey-do list, if I recall, is something that you ask your honey to do. And there's this list. How many of them do you get done every day? Is that how you
Yeah.
spend your whole day? Or is it part of a day, but it's not all your day? Because you got other things to go do too.
So, can we talk about activities? And you've been doing this for a long time. What are some of the more unusual but successful ones that you've seen where I know music is a big part. The sing-alongs in care facilities quite often attract a pretty big crowd.
Yeah, and it has a lot to do with retained abilities and a sense of joy or pleasure or engagement. It sort of draws me because it's done with rhythm. It comes from a part of my brain that tends to be pretty well functioning, or at least I can get it to kick into gear. And the cool part is when you kick that part in gear, frequently other parts start to wake up and go, "Oh yeah. Oh, well, what about this song? Oh, well, what about that song? And what about the words to the song? Now I got the rhythm. Now I'm looking for the words. Oh, when did I last sing that? Who sang that? Oh, mom. Oh, that was a song that mom, what else she used to sing. So it's the opportunity when you start engaging a brain and you pick something that somebody feels fairly successful at, they may want to participate more. And so we talk about there's four major kinds of activity. There's things that make you feel valued and productive. And we call that kind of work related things or volunteer things or things that give you a sense of purpose. Then we have things that are fun. You do them because they give you a sense of pleasure. And then we have things that are more good for you, your body, your brain, you take care of business. And then we have rest and restoration, because if you don't get some rest and restore yourself, you're not going to be much good for things the next round. And what you don't want to do is have a lot of downtime where you don't feel like you're doing anything of anything.
Now, speaking of doing nothing or not doing anything or doing anything, once upon a time somebody was telling me about this clock thing that you do with people where
Yeah.
you say what put on the clock what you do. How does that go?
Yeah. So what we're really looking for, a healthy individual, we're looking that they have some balance to this thing about I do things that give me a sense of value. I do things that give me a sense of pleasure and joy and satisfaction. I do things that are good for my body and my brain. And the world I live in. And finally, I do things that allow me to rest and restore myself so that by the end of it, I filled up 24 hours, because the clock is not 12 hours, it's 24. And in a 24-hour period, we want to find the right rhythm, and it tends to have some balance between self-care and work and pleasure and rest. And when we don't do that for ourselves, we start to build a deficit, and then we want to make it up. And then that can get us, when we have a hole in what am I spending my time doing? Nothing. Ooh, well, that's not good. That'll tend to breed a sense of no purpose, no value, no point, depression, anxiety, distress. I've got to get out of here. I've got to go someplace where I know what I'm supposed to do. I've got to engage in something. This isn't working for me anymore. Or I start doing things you don't want me doing because I'll fill the time, because I always have.
Well, I might be a terror because you're right. I probably would start taking things apart. I'm good at that.
Yeah.
The reassembly might be a bit of a problem.
Might be. Yeah, I've had guys that have been real successful at taking chairs and beds and sinks. There was the one problem about turning off the water before they got started.
Oh, details. You always were detail oriented.
I know, you can cause a lot of damage, it turns out, if you don't turn the water off at 2 a.m.
Teepa, can somebody take an engagement course online, or is that one of the ones that you really have to do hands on?
Yeah, we tried it online, and what we found is it's missing so much of that human thing that we do with one another. What we found is we can do some things online, and there's you can build some skills online. But as far as becoming really skillful at engaging human beings and leading an engagement process in a program and getting others on board, that we've discovered we should wait and do that in person. But we can work on a variety of things getting there. Like, how do I look at someone and engage with someone to figure out what could we do that might give them a sense of value? What could we do that gives them the sense of pleasure? How do we figure out how to get self-care to self-care done and feeling like that? And how do we get some rest and restoration there for everybody involved?
So there's still lots of great ideas out there.
Yeah.
Teepa, thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg.
You've been listening to the Dementia Care Partners podcast series. For more information on today's topic and just about anything else related to dementia, go to teepasnow.com. I give you a phone number, but nobody can remember a phone number when they're driving their car, or they shouldn't try and write it down. So go to teepasnow.com.